Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our Mayfair Witches Season 2, Episode 1 reaction and review. It has been a while since we have been out here in these Anne Rice streets. The last time was for the Interview with the Vampire Season 2 finale. We're here with the witches. Let's get our witching on.
It's really exciting to have 3 shows that are all going to be coming together in the same kind of universe. Not necessarily crossover where we're going to see everybody, but with the Talamasca spinoff coming up as well, we've got them, we've got the Mayfair Witches, we got Interview with a Vampire, which was so good this season. Oh my God. So I'm really excited to be back into the world of the Mayfair Witches.
I will admit, I went into this season with kind of shaky expectations for a couple of reasons. I thought season 1 was fine. I didn't think season 1 was great. I think they took a lot of time trying to get to the meaty stuff. They had a lot of exposition they had to get through about mythology, the witches, the family, all that sort of stuff. So I was worried based on that. And I was also worried just based on my own expectation. Now that we are into 2025, I can say the Interview with the Vampire Season 2 finale was my favorite episode of TV in 2024.
It was excellent. It was so good. It was so excellent.
Like, my bar was just so high, and it's like, did this show meet that? No, but that's okay because it was still very good, and I think this was a significant step forward from season 1. I enjoyed this episode probably more than I have any other episode of Mayfair Witches to date.
Okay, before we get too far into this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are going to be here through all of the Mayfair Witches Season 2. We're going to be back for Interview with Vampire. We are also going to be covering the Talamasca. It is going to be all of it here and Rice at the channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, let's talk about Little Lasher.
Little Lasher.
Now he's a grown man. He grew so fast. It reminded me of What We Do in the Shadows season 4 for anyone who watches that show. We really like that show a lot with the baby Colin Robinson, where he had come back as a baby and bloop, all of a sudden was an adult in a very short amount of time. However, this show is actually doing it way better than What We Do in the Shadows, which is one of my all-time favorite shows. That is my least favorite season.
Same.
Because of that story. But this, where it was like, oh, by day 3, he's already a toddler. I was like, oh my God, seeing all those bottles of milk all over the place. Rowan just looks ragged in 3 days. It's like, oh my girl, I feel so bad for you. I know you made this choice, but come on.
It's still pretty rough. I'm just glad we got all of this out of the way in the premiere. And not to say it as though it's a bad thing, but it's just, I think one of the big questions a lot of us had entering this season was, what was Lasher going to do now that he has basically been reborn as a human? And I like that they didn't draw all this out. I didn't need to watch toddler Lasher just like goofing around for a full season or anything like that. We see what's going on. We experience how this is impacting Rowan on a number of different levels, whether it be her as a parent, whether it be trust issues, what other people are telling her versus what she's trying to tell herself. We are already in the psychological weeds of it, and I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting, though, that she's really asking these questions after the fact, that it's like, okay, I've now absorbed more powers because Lasher has given them up to be able to have this human form. What is it he actually wants? Why would he give up all this power to have a human body? What's the deal? Nobody wants to tell her. Dolly Jean's not talking. He's not talking. Nobody is telling her what it is. It was really compelling to have that conversation between more adult Lasher and Rowan, where she was just like, I think I figured it out. I think I know what it is you're here to do and what we're here to do together. And that's to do good and to be able to help people. I'm like, Rowan, what show are you on that you think that a demon is here to do good? Stop it.
I had so much secondhand embarrassment watching her in that scene. And don't get me wrong.
So did Lasher. Did you see his face? He was just like laughing under his breath, being like, oh no, no.
See, I think one of the reasons I do get frustrated sometimes with this show is that Rowan often is the patron saint of bad choices, and I'm just sitting here and being like, this is a very bad choice to be saying all of this to Lasher. Maybe you have to just get it off your conscience, find out one way or another. It's crazy that you were ever thinking this.
I was wondering, tinfoil hat theory here, if she was trying to guide him into that way, because she's technically his mother now, which is such a weird dynamic, but especially that kiss, guys. Oh my God.
No.
But I think because she's been trying to, grow him up and guide him, that she was just like, let me put this out into the universe. And that maybe if this wasn't why he was here, maybe he'll think about it. Just plant the seed and see if it grows.
It's a good idea. And I think really one of the big stories this season is going to be, can there be a way to harness Lasher for some element of good? Even if Lasher claims that's not why he's here, can Lasher change? Can Lasher evolve? Or is this going to be just such a catastrophic mistake that it's something that Rowan's never really going to be able to grapple? I don't think personally that Mayfair Witches is going to tip their hand on this too far one way or another in these first few episodes. I think they're going to kind of want us to linger on Lasher and what he can do, what he may not want to do. Just as an aside, we have not read this source material. We do not know what's coming up. Please don't spoil it in the comments. We like to be surprised.
Yeah, and I really don't know at this point what it is he wants. It could just be as simple as, I've been in this kind of demon form where I haven't been able to actually have a body, and I just want to be human again, and I want to have human experiences again, and I really want this, and that's how this is going to happen. I don't think that it's as innocent as that. If he's going to go through 13 witches to get to this point that he can just have a human body, I mean, he must really want to be a human again. There's got to be more to it than that.
Yeah, you're talking about someone who has had abilities, and we know from, hundreds of years of reading literature and watching television that a lot of people who develop this kind of power develop a certain amount of narcissism to go along with it. So to lose that part of their identity, like, the motivation's got to be really, really harsh. And I think because Rowan is still pretty new to this world of witchcraft and all of it, she does not have, I think, the ability to see or understand any of that.
The other thing I found kind of interesting is that Lasher doesn't really remember everything that he did when he was in demon form, and I found that kind of interesting. I thought he was going to come with his memories a little, but not everything. He knows why he's there, and he knows why he's done this, but he doesn't remember everything.
My fear is that that's going to be something that kind of gradually comes to him, or there are certain symbols or things that are going to happen where all of a sudden that switch gets flipped, and then it is just a total, oh no, sort of moment that changes the rest of the season.
The person that's making me be like, oh no, right now is Dolly Jean, where Lasher tells Dolly Jean, listen, I'm having these dreams. I see this face of this girl, and Rowan wouldn't like it. And she instructs him to not tell Rowan. Like, she is also guiding him in a way that's kind of a little more mischievous.
I'm worried. Of course I'm going to be worried. I mean, this is a show that wants us to kind of have a lot of different viewpoints being thrown at us. And, there are shows out there, and I've said this especially with the superhero genre, where not every single person in the world needs to have powers. Like, it can be oversaturated. With Mayfair Witches is in the title. This is not Mayfair Witch. I want as many different powers on this show as possible.
Well, that's the thing. Now that he is human and he's gotten what he wanted, what is the connection now to the Mayfair Witches? Because for a long time it felt like he was, offering kind of this exchange of power and, help him get further and further into, to be able to be into this human form. But now that that's happened, what is his now connection to the witches? And it's all going to come back to, what does Lasher want? What is he doing here? Because also seeing him like sneak out and meet up with yet another Mayfair witch, Lucy, who ends up, dead at the end of this episode. He's drawn to this family, and this family is drawn to him no matter if he's still in demon form or now he's in human form.
My biggest concern, especially after what's happening here with Lucy, is just that he is after power. Shocker. Same thing a lot of people in the world are after. And his way of accumulating power is removing more of the Mayfair witches from the world. And in
I
order to,
worried about that
yeah,
too.
in order to be human, if he has to do this as a human in order for it to really work, it's sort of, he's quote unquote conquered one realm. Is he going to come forward and try to, do this in another? And what is
Yeah.
Rowan going to do? Is she going to just sort of close her eyes and ears and pretend it's not happening?
Yeah, I mean, Rowan was told that there could be a couple people like Cortland that might know what it is that Lasher wants. And we
Yeah.
know that Lasher and Cortland had kind of made a deal, right? So
Yeah.
are there other people in this family that Lasher made a deal with before he came into his human form where they are willing to sacrifice the rest of their family so that they can gain this power, or they already traded this power and now they're going to give Lasher what he wants, which is to take all the witch's power and have a human form, and he's just going to absorb everybody's power?
I think this is going to be an interesting little treasure hunt this season of seeing Rowan go to different people, try to get whatever information she can. I'm glad that Cortland is not just going to be Stone Man for the entirety of this season. I was a little bit worried about that coming in.
I mean, he still hasn't come back yet, so I guess we'll see.
I believe you're going to be, I don't know if fine's the right word, Cortland, but I believe you're going to be around.
Yeah, I think he's going to be around too, but it's all going to be like, how is he going to get out of this form? Like, he's still in there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's immortal now, but how does he get out of this form?
I mean, I worry that he's going to have to make some sort of deal of his own, but I think
Yeah.
Rowan at this point, she needs whatever information that she can. She's got to bargain however it is that she can. So, like, that stuff, I think Mayfair Witches has done a really good job at in the premiere. Now, let's talk a couple of new characters, because I've got some good news and bad news to share with everybody here. Good news, I kind of like Moira, the mind reader who has come into the picture here.
I love her.
She's just really interesting, and I think it's fun to have a character who's got some sort of ability that Rowan herself cannot really harness, because she's just gotten a lot of power over the course of one season, and I think it's time for all of us to be like, okay, Rowan, slow your roll a little bit. Sure, you can do a million other things, but you cannot do this.
I love this power. It is very overpowered.
Yes.
And it's nice to have somebody in here who has that kind of a power. And, she's Tessa's sister. She's back because Tessa has passed away. She wants to know why, what happened to her, get to the answers of why Lasher didn't come to help her, how this all transpired. And having this ability to be able to read people's minds, it is definitely going to help her through. I know that people are like, oh, let's put on a record, but there's nothing stopping Moira from going over and kicking that record player over or breaking that record against the wall and being like, now what?
Yeah, there's not really that much you can do here. This is not, to bring back superhero genre here for a moment, it's not like, oh, let's go get a power dampener that we've somehow invented out of nowhere to make it that she can't hear us. It's a very interesting way that she's going to be able to go about her quest for answers, and I think it's a different sort of potential threat than what's going on with Lasher. And if we can throw a couple of those in there, I think we're all going to be good as viewers.
Well, this is the thing, is that we saw Rowan and Moira not get off on the best foot, but I think they're going to be besties by the end of this season. They both want answers on what is happening, what has happened, and how to sort of like get some sort of control on this. They are on the same path. They just don't know it yet. I mean, even Rowan's got Lasher's blood in the lab to test it, to try to get answers. She is willing to do anything for answers. She's reading through old journals with pages torn out of them. And in comes Moira, who can read people's minds. And then you got people like Dolly Jean who are not telling everything. Lasher's a human now. Why would she not be able to read his mind? Maybe, as you said, more of his thoughts will come back, and she'll be able to figure that out of what he did. He at this point was like, I don't know what I did, but maybe at some point he will.
They need each other, and I think they just need to realize that. And I know that trust in a world like this can be really, really difficult, but they have to figure it out. And now let's get to the bad news. I do not care about Lark, this new guy who's like, Rowan's calling her. They have a history from when she was human. It's like, okay.
You better get on board. I feel like he's going to be around.
I know. And it's just like, okay, you guys are inevitably going to get together again. This is going to be a whole little romance subplot. And it's just like, I am watching Mayfair Witches. I want witchcraft effects, awesome things. I don't need normal dude entering the fray who is going to distract from that. I'm not into it. You guys have to turn me around.
I want Rowan and Sip. That's it. That's all I want. I don't
Yeah.
want this new guy. Well, I mean, I definitely don't want Lasher at all. I mean, that's just, it's turned so weird
Yeah.
now. They can't walk that
No,
back
no.
for me, anyways. But I just love Sip as a character.
Mhm.
I really like him for Rowan. They did such a good job in season 1 of building that connection, that friendship to turn a
Yeah.
little more romantic. Like, it was just so good. And this season, you know, he's so worried he's going to lose all his memories, that they're going to be wiped, that he's like spilling all his secrets into this book and putting it aside to be like, oh my God, if this happens to me. And just to find out that's like, no, you're promoted. In fact, you're so promoted now that I need you to like start cozying up to Moira. I need you to get some more information here so that you can get to Lasher, bring him in. Like,
Yeah.
you're our guy now, Sip. I'm like, you are the guy, Sip.
I think he should be the guy. I really enjoy watching him. My guess as to what they're doing with this new potential love interest from Rowan's past is that they kind of feel like a certain part of her is still trying to cling to her humanity, and that this is going to represent that she still wants a part of this in her life, and she thinks that she can sort of bridge the gap between being a human and being a witch. And I'm just here to tell you, it's not going to work out. This dude is going to die. Nobody's going to be that invested in this storyline, and it's just going to drag out. I understand why they're doing it, but once again, this is my I'm going to be frustrated at Rowan storyline, which seems like I always need one with this show.
Nah, miss me with that storyline. I'm not interested in it either. I know he's going to be around as soon as he finds out what's going on with that blood, and he's going to be like, okay, something is really bonkers here. I'm coming to see you. It's going to turn into that for absolute sure.
Yeah, and it's just, this show doesn't need that. It's at its best.
No, they have Sip. You want romance? Sip. He's right there.
Well, yeah, he's endearing. He's likable. He clearly cares about Rowan a lot. And I think in a world where she can't trust a lot of people, she's got to kind of get whatever she can out of it.
Yeah, I think it is going to be that part of Rowan where she's like, oh, I have this new ability now. I can, you know, cure any ailments. I can do all these wonderful things. But that's the part of her as a doctor that makes her still touch in being human and feeling completely human, where she doesn't have these powers. And I think she is going to connect with this guy and try to just feel something where she's just normal. But I think by the time she gets to the end of the season and she's back together with Sip, that she's going to be like, I have both of these sides of me now, and I need somebody else who also has two sides to them, and that person is Sip.
I think it's going to be really important for her long term. And what I want to see is someone who not only understands some of this, but can help her really explore and understand her own powers better. Because if you are gaining these new abilities left and right, you kind of want to get a sense as to how to grasp onto them. And that's kind of the part of me for this show where I don't necessarily need them to rush along a lot of what's going on with Rowan, because I just kind of want to play around in this sandbox a little bit and see, how can she really help people? How much is Lasher going to be a distraction for some of this? Because she's been given a doctor these extraordinary abilities, and I would just think I would be like running to the hospital and being like, cured. I would be doing all this sort of stuff. I want to see kind of a little bit of this play out, because if somebody is getting cured for some like life-threatening ailment, are they really going to question how it happened, or are they just going to be like, thank you so much, I'm alive now?
No, Lasher's definitely going to be a problem. I mean, he already is. He's now killed or been around while this person has died. Lucy, another Mayfair witch, brought her back to the house and is now out in the world again. That is just like, you know, looks through her purse, sees the ID, is like, oh my God, is out in the world doing who knows what. It feels like he's basically collecting Mayfair witches' souls.
Yeah, it's a legitimate concern.
He's a demon.
It could be a really exciting storyline. I'm just happy in general that it feels like this show knows now at the start of season 2 what it wants to be. And I think it had a little
Yeah.
bit of an identity crisis through part of season 1, trying to handle, you've got Interview with the Vampire over there. You've got a lot of different elements you're throwing together, but I sense that it's controlled, it's focused, and yeah, it can be a little bit campy, and I can be very angry at Rowan at times, but it's a very enjoyable watch.
Yeah, it can be a little bit campy, but I'm fine with that. Witches are really hard to do in a
Yeah.
more just purely serious way anyways. So I think if you're going into watching something like Mayfair Witches or The Craft or anything else that you're going to watch,
Yeah.
American Horror Story, Coven, anything like that, you're going to be expecting some of this because this is kind of what makes witches witches.
We'll see what else makes them witches from here on out, but that's our take on season 2, episode 1. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more from Mayfair Witches throughout
Mhm.
this season. Just mentioned it earlier. There's also this Talamasca spinoff that's coming,
Yeah.
and I think we're both, Talamasca brought up in this episode again. We're
Yeah.
both very curious to see about that. Hit that subscribe button, support us further. Join our Patreon. That link is in the description below. This month, we're covering exclusively there in video form The Pit on Max and also Prime Target on Apple TV Plus. Thank you guys so much.
you.
We'll see you here next time.